All right, everybody. Good morning. How are you? I am Derrick Grayson, and this is a good morning from the office of North Georgia's only live online morning show. I'm Derrick Grayson. Many of you know me by the name of T-Mot, and I am filling in for BKP Brian K. Pritchard. And please note that I am not really in North Georgia this morning, but I am sitting at my home. Please, I want to send up prayers for Brian and his family. His father is ill. You know, prayer changes things. Please keep him and his family lifted up in prayer. I do believe in prayer. First thing I want to do is, Facebook, I always morning scripture for people. Some people find inspiration in it. So let me give you the scripture for today. All nations whom thou hast made shall come to worship before thee, O Lord, and shall glorify thy name. And that is from Psalms 86, verse 9. And I want you all to be blessed. Let me bring you up to speed on something, because some of you will notice that I have gone silent on Facebook. Yes. I have been banned again, this time for 30 days. So you will not see me doing the mad posts like I usually do, because Facebook decided that I needed a timeout. And what the post they banned me for 30 days is from, it came back in November of 2014. Yes, almost 5 years ago, this come November. They pulled that up and they decided that I needed to be banned. Now, they asked me if I wanted to appeal. I said, of course I want to appeal. But then again, they decided that, my appeal was worthless. And essentially, the gist of the post was, there was a meme that was put out that says, if you are more outraged at poor black folks in Missouri looting stores than rich whites on Wall Street looting your future, you have been duped. And this is by a guy by the name of Pete Dominic. And basically what I said, and I won't use a word, you can see it on the screen. Word up, middle class and poor whites, you need to wake up too. See, I've been warning the black community for years about Democrats, you understand? And I'm basically saying you are no longer protected either. We are all slaves going back to 1913. So let me be blunt. We are all the new blanks of America. And that's pretty much how that goes. So I wanted to get that out there about Facebook. So if you don't see me around, you know what it is. Also, another show note, Josh is the guy behind the board. Josh, will you please let the people know how they can reach the show, how they can contact us, et cetera, et cetera. Go ahead, do your thing, Josh. There you go. Chief@fetchernews.com. And the call-in number, but you won't be able to call in and speak to me today because I am on remote location. But the phone number is 706-889-9700. The Instagram is at FYNTV, which stands for Fetch Your News TV. And of course, at Fetch Your News. Brian, I can't see that screen over here. If you can move it over a little bit for me, and I'll be able to see that. And then, of course, we have the YouTube channel. Yeah, over a little bit more so I can read the edge of it. Yeah, little bit more. There you go. At Fetch Your News. At Fetch Your News. That's the Twitter handle, and the YouTube channel is FYNTV. Fetch Your News. So please check out BKP and Josh at their Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube channel. And again, you see the number at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so let's move on. I'm going to talk about quite a few things today. Yesterday, the big news was the Mueller hearing. The Mueller hearing. And we're going to examine that throughout the show. Now, mind you, there is a chat box. Feel free to post your questions. Josh will make me aware of them if I happen to miss one. I will break to answer your questions or acknowledge your comments if you have something that you want to be known. So let's jump into this. I have been saying since before Trump was elected that there's something different about this man. Very different. I am one of the few guys who has been sounding the alarm because I am a conservative, a constitutional conservative. But you know, we had all of the liberal Democrats, libertarians even, not all, but many. We had plenty of never Trumpers, people that call themselves Republicans, the very ones who continue to re-elect time and time again what I call rhinos, R-I-N-O. Please do not insult rhinoceroses by using R-H-I-N-O. All right, those animals don't deserve that insult. So a rhino is an infestation of the Republican Party. And when they infested the Republican Party back in the 60s, it was because they were tired of losing to true conservatives. So with that being said, when Trump stepped on the scene, that thing that was different that I talked about was this. Trump was tired of being screwed over as a businessman by Democrats and Republicans. In the very first debate, the first thing he said was, I had to pay people on both sides, Democrats and Republicans, for the benefit of my family, my businesses, and my employees. And basically, Trump was letting all of us know, if, of course, we have been paying attention to politics, I will not be business as usual. I will not go up to personally enrich myself. In fact, I'm already rich. I made my own money, you know, the old-fashioned way and not off of the backs of individuals. And I used the system that was put in place, but I can now see the system as it is and the path that we are headed, globalism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, will destroy the American dream for everyone forever. And if you understand globalism and open borders and all those other things that go along with it, socialism and Marxism and all of those things, you would have saw that from the very first debate and realized that Donald Trump was going to be the guy who was going to overturn the money changers' tables for both parties. That's why you had in the beginning Republicans like Lindsey Graham and John McCain openly going against Donald Trump. Republicans like the Bushes openly going against Donald Trump. People saying he's not a constitutionalist. He's not a conservative. He was a Democrat. Anything that they could come up with, they came up with it. And then, of course, we saw the next phase. He's a misogynist. He's a racist. They have reused him time and time again. And now we are back to he is a racist. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of that background as to what made Donald Trump different and why. He is attacking the money changers' tables on both sides of the aisle, making it difficult for them to continue in the path that they have been on. And that is why I support Donald Trump. Now, one thing that I wanted to cover, and if you don't mind, if you could, I just want to, before I pull up some of the other links, I'm going to talk about Donald Trump being a Christian. So Josh, if you could pull that link up for me, that would be great. And we will discuss a little bit about Donald Trump, because many Christians are on this tear about Donald Trump not really being a Christian. And that amazes me, because Donald Trump has done more for the Christian than any president over the last 50 years. Donald Trump made it okay to say Merry Christmas. Donald Trump brought the Christmas tree back into the White House, and they had a very Merry Christmas. He made it to where people now understand you don't have to be afraid to acknowledge that you are a Christian. But what's the one thing that Donald Trump did that made life even better for Christians, and more importantly, those that are in the womb? We have seen this trend of anti-abortion laws being passed all over this country. And I just want to read something to you that I wrote to a person who decided they wanted to criticize Donald Trump about being a Christian. And I said this was worth repeating, and you can find this on my Facebook wall. So, person of interest, I didn't want to mention a name, but anybody that claims to be a Christian, who are taking statements that Donald Trump may have made that you don't agree with. My response was, how does that make him not a Christian? And let me explain why it's that question. I'm going to give you some examples. Moses struck the rock. Did that make him not a servant of God? Of course it didn't. Of course it didn't. David sent a soldier to the front line to die that he might have his wife. Did that make David no longer a servant of God? No, it did not. We also have Peter, who cut off a man's ear. And then Paul even killed Christians. But did that stop them from being or becoming apostles of God? No, it didn't. Now, Trump, as I said before, has done more for Christians in the last 50 years than any president that I have seen. Now, I'm 59, so, I've been watching what's been going on, okay? We have had this move away from Christian values even being mentioned in schools, because we now live in a time where if it feels good, do it. And we don't want anybody getting in the way of any of that. And then there is even people out there that'll push, well, this is not a Christian nation. Well, this country was founded upon Christian values, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. In our preamble, for we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I could go on and on and on about men of God who have made mistakes. I've made mistakes. All of us have said things and even done things that we had no business doing. But still, God used them for his purposes. And neither of the men that I mentioned in my example ever renounced God, and nor have I heard Trump say, I am not a Christian. I renounce God, don't want anything to do with him. And Trump has done things that are exemplary of what God would want us to do, to fight for liberty, freedom, and justice for all men, women, and children. Only God knows what's in a man's heart. And who are you to try and judge what's in a man's heart? Judge him instead by his actions, the end result of his actions. But don't just look for the words, because you got to understand something. Trump plays 3D chess, and sometimes Trump might say things that people might not understand or grasp, and they miss the whole point because they are focused on the appearance of what they thought they understood, and that's a problem. So let me talk a little bit about the Mueller hearing, and I'm going to give you some facts and findings. One of the things that came out was there were 14 Democrats that were the attorneys for Mueller. None were Republican. And then, of course, there were some people who tried to counter that by saying 5 of them were had no political affiliation that could be found. But that's not what came out of the testimony. We also know that some of those attorneys gave as much as collectively $60,000 to the Hillary campaign. Now, on the surface of it, understand some people. If you've got these people who were on the surface without doing any digging, just on the surface, were in the tank for Hillary Clinton, what do you think that they're going to do about Trump? But we're supposed to take Mueller's word that they were had impeccable reputations. You know, when you're dealing with the legal process, it's about avoiding even the appearance. Did you hear what I said? It is about avoiding even the appearance of impropriety, whether there may not be any at all. If it appears that there could be, we want to remove all doubt, because justice is supposed to be blind. This investigation cost $30 million. Now, I heard a figure of 25. I heard another figure of 37. I'm going to stick with the $30 million price tag because that's the one that I've heard the most. We also know that it was a 22-month investigation. Now, of note, Mueller basically answered no questions from anyone that were of significance and would always refer back to the report speaks for itself. But the most important one of all, the most important thing is that in this investigation, they made no determination. So I want to play or have Josh play this 3-minute video, which is the crux of what everybody should understand about this investigation. So Brian, could you run that video for me, please, so that everybody could see it? And we'll just sit back and we'll watch a little bit of this, and I'll comment as we move forward.
Now, your report, and today you said at all times the special counsel team operated under, was guided by, and followed Justice Department policies and principles. So which DOJ policy or principle sets forth a legal standard that an investigated person is not exonerated if their innocence from criminal conduct is not conclusively determined?
Can you repeat that?
So he asked him a very specific question. Now, one thing that I noticed throughout his testimony, he would always ask people to repeat something as though he didn't hear it. He would stumble. Sometimes he acted as though he wasn't clear as to what was going on. I just found it strange. He acted like he might have been somewhat feeble. I'm sorry, nothing against old people like myself, but you know, I'd like to think that if I was asked a question, I wouldn't have to constantly ask people to repeat the question, and that kind of gave me a little pause for concern. But at any rate, in this particular one, you'll hear him say, "Can you repeat that?" And the question, of course, is based on what you were charged with doing. Please tell us, where is the policy that allowed you to come up with the decision that you did? Let's continue with the video, Josh. Thank you.
Can you repeat the last part of that question?
Yeah. Which DOJ policy or principle set forth a legal standard that an investigated person is not exonerated if their innocence from criminal conduct is not conclusively determined? Where does that language come from, Director? Where is the DOJ policy that says that? Can you, let me make it easier.
Go ahead.
Can you give me an example other than Donald Trump where the Justice Department determined that an investigated person was not exonerated because their innocence was not conclusively determined?
I cannot, but this is a unique situation.
Well, you can't. Time is short. I've got 5 minutes. Let's just leave it at you can't find it, because I'll tell you why. It doesn't exist. The special counsel's job, nowhere does it say that you were to conclusively determine Donald Trump's innocence or that the special counsel report should determine whether or not to exonerate him. It's not in any of the documents. It's not in your appointment order. It's not in the special counsel regulations. It's not in the OLC opinions. It's not in the Justice Manual, and it's not in the principles of federal prosecution. Nowhere do those words appear together, because respectfully, Director, it was not the special counsel's job to conclusively determine Donald Trump's innocence or to exonerate him, because the bedrock principle of our justice system is a presumption of innocence. It exists for everyone. Everyone is entitled to it, including.
Okay, let me break that down, because you know what? People will hear words, and for whatever reason, they'll only grasp the words that makes them feel warm and fuzzy, that goes along with their preconceived notions. And I always tell people that words have meaning. The bedrock of our legal system is the presumption of innocence. And what he is trying to bring Mueller to understand and give an explanation on is, where was the charge for you to exonerate? Did you have to exonerate? Meaning saying you are not guilty. Well, hold up. If the presumption is innocence, then that was not Mueller's call. Mueller's call was to see whether or not Donald Trump was guilty to be charged, not to exonerate him as though he was already guilty. Do you see the difference? And you'll hear him use the term, this inverted charge, meaning upside down. So Donald Trump went in guilty. Do you remember when Comey said, well, yeah, did she do something that was not right? Well, yeah, she did. But, you know, we're not going to charge her. Now, if anybody else did it, would they be charged? Well, this is not to say that they wouldn't be. They would most likely be charged. So Hillary was guilty of something, but they didn't want to charge her. Now, Donald Trump goes in guilty, and the man refuses to publicly make a determination to his innocence. But that wasn't his charge anyway. Hey, Mueller, did Donald Trump break the law? That's what we want to know. But we'll keep on going. Let's hear what else the gentleman has to say. Let's roll that footage, Josh.
Sitting presidents. And because there is a presumption of innocence, prosecutors never, ever need to conclusively determine it. Now, Director, the special counsel applied this inverted burden of proof that I can't find, and you said doesn't exist anywhere in the department policies, and you used it to write a report. And the very first line of your report, says, and as you read this morning, it authorizes the special counsel to provide the Attorney General with a confidential report explaining the prosecution or declination decisions reached by the special counsel. That's the very first word of your report, right?
That's correct.
Here's the problem, Director. The special counsel didn't do that. On volume 1, you did. On volume 2, with respect to potential obstruction of justice, the special counsel made neither.
So the key part of this that you all need to understand, which makes this a waste of 22 months, a waste of taxpayer money, $30 million, and painfully clear that this was a witch hunt, because in the very first line, they said that he was to make a determination as to decline prosecution or recommend a prosecution. Mueller did neither. He didn't recommend, he didn't decline. Do you want to know why? I have been saying for months, they will get nothing on Donald Trump. First, he's been accused, and I'm just going to go down the list and not necessarily in order. He's a rapist. I've heard child molester. Of course, we all have heard that he's a racist, a misogynist, a bigot, a tax cheat. I mean, the list goes on and on. A pervert. Okay. It just it's a never ending list, and they recycle them every chance they get. But every time they have tried to get him, every time they have come, oh, we got the smoking gun, Stormy Daniels and Avenatti, and of course he's going to be going to prison for a long time. We got the smoking gun now. They all fail. Cohen, oh, we got another smoking gun. They all fail. Epstein, oh, now here it comes. That's his buddy. They all failed, and people are still waiting for the shoe to drop with Epstein because everybody, well, they were pals. Trump is the one who gave the report to the people down in Florida about what the man was doing in the first place. Do a little research, pick up a book, check out more than just CNN or MSNBC or Fox. That's right. Fox, they've got their issues too, but that's another story. But here, to make a determination, but the report didn't do it. Why? Because it's two reasons. They have nothing on Trump. That's number one. Number two, because they have nothing on Trump, they must find a way through media, the fourth branch of government, to make people become more and more angered and divided by not giving them the truth, but feeding them with lies, so that they will be motivated to go out and vote against Trump. Why? Because they don't want the Electoral College to do its job again. And the only way to do that is to win more states than they did the last time. Because even though Hillary got more in the majority vote, that was still not enough to defeat Donald Trump by virtue of our Electoral College. And we have people out there that are trying to get criminals the ability to vote while they're still under sentence. Of course, we know the move to get illegals. When I first heard about the voter ID, I didn't realize it, but you know, I talk about this thing, a 20-year plan of infiltration to defeat. This whole thing about the ID has been about illegals, because I would always say, well, I'm insulted. I got a driver's license. I got photo ID. Yeah, and I'm a Negro. I'm smart enough to go and get a driver's license. So I don't need you to pass laws that don't require that I have to have identification. And I couldn't figure it out, but I got it now. I got it now. They're looking for the numbers. And blacks are now the minority. Illegals, or those that have come into this country, particularly from the southern border, have now become the new majority minority. And the Democrats want to use them as a tool, as they have done with the Negro for decades. For decades. So when we understand that, we must understand that the only way to defeat Donald Trump is through the voter. And how do you get the voter? to want to go up against Donald Trump, you feed them lies, and you keep enough disinformation out there for them to where people will be motivated to run to the polls and vote against Donald Trump. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Let's finish with the footage, Josh.
A prosecution decision or a declination decision. You made no decision. You told us this morning and in your report that you made no determination. So respectfully, Director, you didn't follow the special counsel regulations. It clearly says, write a confidential report about decisions reached. Nowhere in here does it say, write a report about decisions that weren't reached. You wrote 180 pages. 180 pages about decisions that weren't reached, about potential crimes that weren't charged or decided. And respectfully, by doing that, you managed to violate every principle and the most sacred of traditions about prosecutors not offering extra prosecutorial analysis about potential crimes that aren't charged. So Americans need to know this as they listen to the Democrats and socialists on the other side of the aisle, as they do dramatic readings from this report, that volume 2 of this report was not authorized under the law to be written. It was written to a legal standard that does not exist at the Justice Department. And it was written in violation of every DOJ principle about extra prosecutorial commentary. I agree with the chairman this morning when he said Donald Trump is not above the law. He's not. But he damn sure shouldn't be below the law, which is where volume 2 of this report puts him.
Did you hear that? Not a single policy exists that authorizes that report as it is written. One that made absolutely no determination. The reason it made no determination is because if it had, they would have said Donald Trump is, as he went in, innocent, still innocent of doing absolutely nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing wrong. But they could not give Donald Trump that victory because that would take the fuel out of their rocket ship. They couldn't give him that. And of course, they couldn't determine that he was guilty because he's innocent. That little detail, that one thing alone, is what many people are missing about this whole report. But it doesn't matter because they do not like Donald Trump. Let's take a break and we will continue with this when we get back with some more analysis on Mr. Donald Trump and the hearing that Mueller, at least it appears that he was there, but I'm not really sure. We'll talk about that when we come back. Okay, Josh, let's take a break.